delighted to have Meriet Duncan with me today. Hello, Meriet.
Hello there, James. Good to see you.
Meriet, sometimes known as the Queen Bee, is an amazing kids author. She is of kids books. Is that right?
I'm an author of two children's books and a third in the making.
Excellent. What are those? Just quickly, what are those books called?
Betsy Valentine and the Honeybees, which is a lovely adventure for young children, where they learn all about the importance and the life cycle of the honeybee, and Betsy Valentine and the Honourable Honeybee, where slightly older children will learn about beekeeping and what they can learn from a colony of honeybees.
Fantastic. Because that's the other thing that you do right now, isn't it? You keep bees, and you're a bit of a bee expert. You even do speeches across the country on that subject. I
do.
And we're taking a really different approach today. This goes out to leaders and their teams, and it's an often used analogy because bees do amazing things collectively.
Yes.
So the reason that Meriet is here is to share some of her wisdom about bees. See what we can learn as leaders within business from bees. So let's start. The bees are. I'm not the expert. They're amazing communicators, aren't they?
Yes. Yes.
Perhaps set up. Tell us a bit about how bees work and communicate with you, Meriet.
Well, we're talking about the honeybees. We're not talking about any other sort of bees because honeybees, 270 different type of wild bees in this country, 24 which are bumblebees. The honeybees are no longer wild, and they are distinguishable from the other bees because they live in such huge colonies. The other bees are solitary, and the bumblebees live in much smaller colonies. And the way they work and the way they communicate is all part of their success. They've been here for over 100 million years, and it's their respectful approach to each other and how they work as a community, if you like. The colony works as a community that makes them successful. So, yeah.
Okay, well, it sounds like we definitely need to learn from them as a human race, not just leaders.
Yeah, definitely.
In that case, tell us how it operates.
They have a colony of bees is made up. Let's say an average colony of bees is made up of 50,000 bees. There's one queen bee who everybody thinks rules the hive. To a certain extent, she does, and she rules by her pheromones. She has various pheromones and she communicates through, and a pheromone is a smell, and that stops the workers, who are all girls. The workers in a hive are all girls, and the drones are, surprise, surprise, born to mate, and that's it. They do nothing else in the hive. They don't even have a sting, because they don't, other than mate with the queen, they don't leave. So it's the communication between her pheromones tell the girls not to lay. They tell the girls what jobs they've got to do, and also the pheromone guides the bees back to their hive. They're very loyal to their queen. So that's one way of communicating. But also the bees communicate by vibration. They talk to each other by vibration. But there's one thing that they do that's so important, and that's the Waggle dance. And that's probably...
Oh, I've heard about this.
Yeah, discovered by Professor Carl von Frisch during the Second World War. He actually got the Nobel Peace Prize for that in 1973. But the Waggle dance is when the bees become forager bees. There's one little forager, or lots of little forager bees that we call the scout bees, and they're the ones that go out and tell the other bees where the best form of forage is to go. And they follow the sun around. They're the first out in the morning. They follow the sun all the way around, and they fly back to the hive throughout the day, and they perform this sort of dance, and they dance in a figure of 8. And whichever way they go up the figure of 8 tells the bees where they've got to go for the best source of forage, because they don't live very long. So they can't, like us, decide, I'm going to make a treacle pie. I'll go to Waitrose and get some treacle. Haven't got any. Oh, I'll go to Sainsbury's. I'll go here. They need to know. So the scout bees are saving them time by finding out where the best source of forage is. They come back, they dance in this figure eight. Whatever way they go up the figure eight says that's where the nectar is, that's where the pollen, etc. is. That's the way you should
because
do
they're kind of pointing it to it depending on which
Yeah, they're
direction
pointing them,
they're flying.
yes, in the figure of eight. And then however far up that figure of eight goes tells them how far it is they have to go, how much, what the distance is. And they've actually tracked the scout bees 5 miles, because bees fly for 3 to 5 miles, and they've been accurate to within 30 feet. So that's pretty impressive. And the last thing is, however fast they waggle their bottoms tells them how long it's going to take them. So all these things are time-saving ways of communication so that the bees can perform better and collect the most nectar and pollen and all the things they need for the next generation. So that's a fantastic way. And they also use it for
really clear and really precise instructions because they're under quite a lot of time pressure.
Absolutely. And when they use it for swarming, I always say when I'm giving my talks, when bees swarm, that means that the hive has got overcrowded and they have to get out. Half the hive leaves, they take off with the queen, but they just don't fly anywhere and think, oh, somebody, where is it? The little scouts go out first and they come back and they perform this dance in exactly the same way, telling them where to go. And for the bees, it's like, what's the one, Chris Tarrant, Who Wants to Be a Millionaire? So they come back, and rather than just communicating with the queen or whoever they think might be the most important one in hive, as we tend to do in a company, you think, oh, well, I'll ask the CEO, he must know, or I'll ask the manager, or the CEO would go to the managing director. What the bees do, they ask the audience, because if you look on Who Wants to Be a Millionaire, 60% of people get it right and ask the audience, and invariably they're saving their best question for that one person that they think knows everything. And how often do they? So the bees use the ask the audience. They come back and then collectively they go, oh, well, we'll go and have a look, and we'll go and have a look. And the more bees that dance in that tune, then they will go. They take the general opinion rather than the one who they think knows best.
So they're working it out amongst themselves.
Yeah.
Group.
Yes.
Rather than asking the boss.
Yeah. Yeah, because you would find that, somebody that you were completely unaware of within the company might know something that him up above didn't, or her up above didn't know. Yeah, they use the collective. Exactly that. Yeah.
Absolutely, and because there's a lot of great bosses deliberately employ people that are better than them in certain areas. Because that's what you want. You don't want everyone coming to you for the
exactly.
The
it's teamwork.
Given there's one queen, she would be overwhelmed if everyone came to
exactly.
I don't know, ask a question or wiggle at her or whatever the bee equivalent would be.
Yeah, she's way too busy for all of that, and she doesn't leave the hive anyway.
Yeah, there's a lot of there's a lot of analogies made between business, and I sometimes it's the bees' ability to use their collective intelligence. And probably what you've described is an example, but are there any other collective intelligence examples that we can learn from the bees?
Oh gosh, there's so much. It's just the fact that their honeybees are totally selfless. They literally use one interaction after another that by coincidence makes our world a better place. But everything they do is for the good of their colony. There's nothing that they do for the good of themselves per se, because they don't live long enough to benefit. At no time does a honeybee say, well, do you know what? We've really worked hard this spring. We can now sit back until the June gap's gone and then we can start again and enjoy. They just carry on working, and they do it all for the good of the colony and the next generation. And that's why they've been here for 100 million years.
The collective good. How long do they live? Out of interest.
Sorry?
How long do bees live on average?
During the summer, they will live for 6 weeks. 3 weeks in the hive, learning, developing their skills, their wings, their sting, and then 3 weeks outside of the hive. In the winter, they're slightly bigger, and biology is fantastic. They're just slightly bigger, and they will live for up to 5 months because the bees die off, and it's their job, the ones that are left, to look after the queen. And because they're not out foraging every day, because it's cold, obviously, and they're just clustered around the queen, making sure that she survives through to the spring, they'll live for 5 months.
Absolutely. Is there anything else that the queen does from that we can sort of draw an analogy between how leaders might want to act?
Well, I think I'm looking here. I mean, there's so many things. How can the pheromones and the waggle dance help your communications? Well, she basically is the reason for everything that the rest of a colony does. I mean, she really is. The bees pay close attention to the queen, as she's always surrounded by attendants who tend to her every need. And it's just her use of pheromone. Oh, shoot, sorry, let me turn that off. It's her use of pheromones that guide the worker bees and tell the worker bees what they've got to do. And you could say she's the most important bee in the hive. But I think what the bees know is all of the bees are important in that hive, because though we diss the drone bee because he only lives to mate with the queen, and those that do unfortunately die, and those that don't, they go back to any old hive. They have no loyalty to the queen. And the reason they can do that is because they don't work. They don't do anything. I suppose in a way you could sort of say, come the sort of September, they get rid of the drones because they're just a waste of space in the hive and eating the honey. And you can literally see the drones trying to get. So it's a bit like culling your business and saying they're not really doing very well, and we don't need.
Yeah, they're not performing. Yeah. They're not part
they're
of the
not
team.
Bringing any goods back to the table. So we can do without them, and then they come back in the sort of spring to mate with the queen, and then they die out again. So she guides the workers as to all their jobs, but she knows that without the workers she wouldn't be there, and the workers know without her they wouldn't be there, and without the drones none of them would be there. So they all have this amazing sort of respect for each other and their importance within the colony.
What happens if something happens to the queen, or can something happen to the queen?
Well, again, you see, when the queen is failing, the queen will live for 3 to 5 years, and she only mates once. And when she stops, her egg laying gets less and less. The bees then decide that that's a swarm. She's not doing very well. So they will build what we call a supersedure queen cell. Every little bee has the possibility of being a queen. It's just which ones they choose and feed the royal jelly to. They're the queens. So they will build, if their queen is failing, because there's one cell or maybe 2 in the middle of a frame, 11 frames in a thing. And they have decided that queen's no good anymore. So they're not going to swarm. They will just build that one cell, and then that young queen comes out and she will kill the queen that's in there. So that's how they replace them. They know when she's failing. They just know. And when the swarm takes off, for example, when they're overcrowded, of course the queen's gone, so they are queenless. But they have built swarm cells. They've built loads of little queen cells before they take off, which is when the queen thinks, "Uh-oh, my time here is up. Off I go."
Absolutely. And they adapt as well, don't they? I think I saw something the other day about bees, how I think somebody didn't put back in the normal mesh frame. Give me the correct term. And the bees have created their own shape.
Yeah. We give them frames, and we put foundation in there for them as a start. It's just flat wax, and they will build it out. But if you didn't do that and you just put them in a box, they would just build it themselves. Yeah, I mean they produce wax. Wax is what they produce. We give them the foundation just to give them a helping hand. But if you just put an empty frame in, they would just build that 100%. So I can show you. I've got some here.
Right.
Look, sorry. Edit. Here it is. This is something that they build without foundation. If you can see it, they just build it. They don't need it.
Okay.
And they can produce that really, really quickly. So, yeah, they adapt. I mean, they're adapting now to climate change, to be honest. They're, it used to be when I first started being a beekeeper, you didn't see honeybees come out till it was 16 degrees. Nowadays, they're out in 12, 13, 14 degrees. You wouldn't inspect a hive in that because it's too cold for the eggs. But they're used to be the humble bumble that would go out under 16 degrees, or the hardy bumblebee, as I call them. But the little honeybees are out now. So they are adapting and having to adapt to climate change. Yeah.
Well, I guess, I mean, it's adapt or die is a commonly used phrase that probably applies to us all, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Is there anything else that, from a team perspective, that's really struck you? Because I know you've studied, you've prepared some stuff for business. Is there anything else significant that you think is?
Well, honestly, I think everything that the bees do can teach you about leadership, the queen, how she conducts herself, communication, how they talk to each other. We can learn from the honeybees. We can learn about growth, as in swarming, how to reproduce. When is it time for a company to grow, and when does that company swarm, taking the CEO with it and producing a new company to come along and succeed. I think they can teach us all things like that. They teach us about teamwork, the pheromones and the whole teamwork, the waggle dance. I can't remember what it's called, when they kind of form a chain when they're making wax, and they make this wonderful chain where they pass it along like builders. So teamwork is very important in a hive. And also, I think...
Tell us more about the swarm, because it's almost if they've got a kind of a growth plan almost just built into their natural way of doing things. It's almost half of the course, as opposed to for many businesses, they might have a really solid growth plan, or they might get to a situation and then think, oh, hang on, this doesn't work, we need to change it up.
Yeah, I think for the bees, their swarming is literally that they've been, I suppose, that particular lot of being as successful as they can within that colony, and now simply they've got too big. So what do? Well, then half of them have to go and start again somewhere else with the queen and begin, and then the other halves are left with sort of like the what do you call it, the successor. And it's fantastic, because what they do when they realise that they are they've outgrown themselves, and they so this is where they're doubling their existence. They will build about 20 queen cells, and the first queen out, she will herald her own arrival. And I often wonder if that's where we get like the trumpet voluntary from. She actually makes this sort of trumpet sound that says to all...
like the arrival. Yeah, I'm here.
I've actually heard it. I've got it on one of my blogs. And she says, I'm here. And all the little princesses, they're not mated, that are in the cells, they make a little gurgling sound. Now, this is where their intelligence falls down, because nobody says, shut up, she's going to kill you. The queen has a sting. It's not barbed. She will then go round to every single cell and will kill her rivals. And if she doesn't get them all, if any one of them survive, they will fight, and they will fight to the death. So only one queen can live in a colony. And that's how the honeybees ensure, by building lots of them, that they get the best.
Yeah, so you're almost, let's take the positive there. So deciding on the one leader rather than
Yeah,
going around and killing a rival,
yeah.
perhaps is half,
I suppose it's like
perhaps is half
interviewing as
the
many
equation.
people as you can and deciding on the one that you think will lead your company the best. Yeah, yeah. But
Yeah, because it wouldn't
he
work
does it.
if you had three or four queens, because there'd be different
But
communications.
there
The
is
whole
no
system would
Hive.
fall apart, wouldn't
No, it's only one. There can only be one CEO of a company, can't there? And that's where
it? Absolutely.
the waggle dance comes into it, because the CEO, they ask the majority. It's not just his advice; it's everybody's advice. But you can only have one
Yeah,
CEO.
absolutely. Fantastic. And I love the fact that they are kind of almost proactively kind of duplicating and multiplying.
Yes,
It's kind of it's a real it's a real clear growth strategy
yes. Yeah.
that they're taking on board. Is there any how do they kind of expand from there? Is there an equivalent of I know this is going to sound ridiculous, but if from a training, how does one bee go out and decide to set up the next colony, or 20 bees go out and decide?
Well, they decide on when it's overcrowded. That is the main reason that they will swarm. They want to they need to start again, or so she has to go. They live in boxes. She has to go. Now, how it happens in the wild, they live in trees. They have no more
Yeah.
space. So that's that. But as for who does what, for the bees, when they're born, they're all given various jobs to do. And they're all jobs that they have to follow, and they come in an order as they work their way up the ladder, if you like, to become the one that helps but they're all helping the colony survive. It sounds silly to say it. So as soon as they're born, they become the nurse bees, and the nurse bees are the ones that feed all the other larvae. Then they become the cleaners, and then a few of them become the attendants to the queen, and then they become the undertaker bees. And these are all jobs that they have as they work their way up.
Okay, so there's sort of a clear ladder and
Oh
progression
yeah,
within the
oh yeah,
bee,
yeah.
bee world. Everyone
Yeah,
understands.
they follow these little patterns of jobs, and then when they get to about 12 days old, they become the wax producing. Their glands are producing wax, so they do that for a few days. And then they become the fanning bees, the ones that reduce the water content in the hive, or stand with their bottoms facing out, guiding the queen's pheromones out, so that when the bees are flying back in, and there's all these hives, or if they're in a forest, all these trees, well, which one is mine? They've navigated via church steeples, telegraph poles, this building, that, and then they get back to the woods, if they were in the wild, which they're not here, or their apiary. Well, which hive is mine? Well, the little fanning bees are sending out the queen's pheromones to them to guide them back into their hive. If they tried to go into the hive next door, they wouldn't be allowed in. So, it's all about communication. And then they become the guards who stand at the entrance. Their wings are strong and their stings are potent, and they're there to stop the robber bees, if you've got a weaker hive next door, coming into their house, into their company, and stealing their ideas, their honey and their pollen. So the guards are there to protect their hive from wasps and robber
So
bees.
it sounds like there's a few rogues, are there? So how does that play out? You get
Well, it's just
bees
the
try
progression.
and steal honey rather than collect nectar.
Yeah, I mean, they won't. They're not lazy, but if you've got a hive that's failing and the queen isn't laying, and they're not very many, and they haven't got much honey, they will think, oh well, haven't got much energy. We'll just go next door. That looks like a good strong hive, but they don't get in, because the guard bee's job is to stop anybody that's not from their hive entering. It's like, again, you can see it's like another sort of chap from another company coming in to do a bit of spying, and you just don't want him in there,
It's a bit like a merger, isn't it? As a small company, it's not doing well, so somebody else will buy it up, because it's quicker and easier to do that than the labour of the full production.
And then once they've done their duty as a guard bee, they can go out, and they're the forager bee that brings back all the things that are required: the pollen, the nectar, the propolis, and the water, for the continuation of the next generation of honeybees.
And I guess one. So you've described sort of kind of almost the internal working. So if it gets too big, they need to expand.
Yeah.
How about if we looked at again, sort of the market context. So I guess in the world of bees, that is, well, if they fly out and there's no nectar,
Yeah.
what happens then? Do they adapt to their market conditions?
No, they suffer, and that is why the bees are struggling at the moment, and that is why beekeepers are needed. They're struggling for so many reasons. No, if unfortunately today, and this applies to all bees and pollinators, because of population we're building houses, we're taking away their meadows, their forests, their natural habitat.
Yeah.
And because of feeding, so many people, mono-farming culture, the farmers here, they had it on Country File, they're using a chemical called neonics, which kills the bug that kills the root of, for example, rapeseed, and that disorientates the bees. They can't fight us. They've survived 100 million years, but we are, damaging our wildlife with what we're doing and how we're behaving. And that's why I was saying earlier on about the ethical behaviour. We can learn a lot from the honeybees about sustainability and, ethical behaviour, because they're very important parts of our biodiversity, our whole ecosystem. So unfortunately, if there's no nectar, we have to feed them, because what can they do? They need nectar, they need pollen. If you look in China, their bees, they have to pollinate. They use little cotton buds and they pollinate all their trees and their things, because there's certain areas where there aren't any bees. And that's what it would come to. And that would have a devastating effect on us. It wouldn't kill us, but there are other things, but they are the major propagators. They are the major pollinators of our fruits, our vegetables, of everything that's important to us. But they couldn't, yes.
Yeah, and
if
I
we
think
keep
it's worth
their habitat, they're going to die out.
Yeah, I think that's clearly even more important.
Yeah.
Like, it's great to learn from bees and make the analogy with business. But if bees aren't around, then that's even that's catastrophic.
Yeah, well, look at the coffee.
Just spend a moment on just how important bees are.
If you've had a cup of coffee this morning, that happened because of the bees. Back in Africa.
Thank you, bees.
They are thank the bees. If it wasn't for the honeybees and the bees pollinating the coffee plants, you wouldn't have that coffee in your cup today. If you had banana, everything, they pollinate. I think it's something like 70% of our fruit and vegetables are done by the honeybees. Why by the honeybees? Because they live in such enormous colonies. So, for example, if our bees are out on the rapeseed at the moment, rapeseed's fantastic for the honeybees. They've gone through the winter, they've survived it, and this is a great source of nectar and pollen. And if the farmers are trying to kill the little beetle that destroys the roots of their rapeseed, what it does to our honeybees, it disorientates them, and they can't find their way back to their hives. It's just like they're drunk. They don't know what they're doing. Well, one little solitary bee not getting back to her hive is something, but 25,000 bees not finding their way back home is something else. And if they haven't brought the goods back, you get colony collapse. There's nothing there for the little ones to grow up on and feed on.
What can we do?
Look after our bees. Have a bit more awareness of the wild, of the necessity of woodland, of parkland, of meadows, of swathes, of bushes and hawthorn. A lot of farmers, they take away the little footpaths. They just want to get as much as they can, and who can blame them? And I'm not having a go at farmers at all, because very dear friends of mine are farmers. Jeremy Clarkson showed us that they have a very tough life, and they're doing what they can do to survive. But I think, goodness, lockdown showed us, didn't it? When we all went inside, nature came out, didn't it? They were roaming the streets. You could hear the birds singing. I had a horse. She died last year. I used to go out riding during lockdown because we were allowed to exercise our horses as long as we weren't near each other. And you could ride through the woods. And goodness me, I hadn't realised how much the air pollution had an effect on us. I could hear the birds singing. I stopped my horse and I thought, I've never heard the birds so loud. Well, I hadn't, because you've constantly got aircraft going over. You're not aware that you can hear this so much. So I think lockdown taught us a lot for people in business, how you can now work from home and be in more control, and also about nature and what we're doing. And this is going way off kilter, but I say, if we help the bees, we can not only help our planet, but hopefully ourselves. But that I doubt very much. Got to put our weapons down first.
Well, we all, I can speak for myself, we all take so much for granted as humans in this world. Me included. I'm quite happy when my kids challenge me on what my generation might have done and what they're trying to do differently, because I think it's the right thing. So
the honeybees,
it's interesting in this conversation. Yeah,
the honeybees completely and utterly changed my life. They changed my way of thinking, how I eat, what I waste, I don't, I use glass milk in glass bottles, not plasticky bottles, and just learning the effect that we humans, we were given the brains to think and use, and we don't use them well.
Yeah, and I guess that's one of the main things, that kind of respect for each other, that total sort of devotion to the collective and the team seem to be the biggest message I've taken. I've learned a lot.
Yeah, and they're not greedy.
From this
they're not greedy. We're greedy. We don't. We want milk. We don't buy a pint. We buy 4. Why? Because we've got refrigerators. The lion, she could kill 10 antelopes, but she just takes the one, because that's all she needs. And the bees, they just take what they need for survival. And you can learn about that, about not, why are we stocking up? Why are we storing? Just take what we need. Less is more. Less is more.
Absolutely. What changes? You said they've had a profound effect on you, Meriet. What changes have you made personally?
Oh, I just think the way I think, what importance I put on values, just values on everything I buy, everything I say, everything I do, what effect I'm doing has on somebody else, because that's how the bees work. And as you watch them, you really have to, James, and I hope one day someone will show you into a hive of bees, to go into a nest of wild creatures who allow you in. I mean, can you imagine going into a nest of wasps? They allow you into their homes. They allow you to handle them. Why? Because they know you're nothing to be frightened of. And like the old wasp, he takes you, dollops around on your hand, falls in your cider, and then on the way, boom, he'll sting you. Why not? Because he can. The bee can't. They've got a sting. They were given a very powerful weapon, but they know to use it wisely. Because why sting us for the hell of it? It's getting them nowhere. They'll die. So they save their sting to protect themselves from intruders. They're not aggressive. They are defensive. They will only use their sting if they are under attack. They will never attack. And I think that's such a great message for us all. Why did it change me? You'd have to go into a hive of bees and see those tiny little creatures working so hard for the good of their next generation, which, by the way, we benefit from. To not be changed by them would be insane. You couldn't work with them and not want to think more like a bee.
that I love that insight. That kind of, I'm going to save my sting until kind of it's life threatening
Yeah.
kind of scenario.
Yeah, and
Because when
save
we,
your temper, save your anger. Think about it. What effect is that going to have on that person, and what effect will it eventually come back on me? So that think you've got this weapon and you can do big damage, but once you've used it,
that's really interesting, because some people say that our superpower, if you like, as humans, is our ability to think.
yeah,
Yet a lot of the time we don't, do we? We go into our kind of automatic modes that may mean that we are snapping at somebody
yeah,
or tutting or
yeah,
doing something negative.
yeah,
We just need to think,
yeah.
and then we won't.
Yeah, beware of the consequences of your actions is my saying to my children, and has been for years. And when you think about what it is you're going to say before you say it, and what effect is that going to have, and that's so true in business as well. As you say, we're so quick to do that, and then and it will come back on you.
Yeah, because we're human, and we are, we're emotional. We're emotional creatures.
Yeah,
Yeah, a lot of leaders I have to stop and say, well, yes, you've communicated the fact, but what's the impact on that person's motivation or well-being?
yeah,
Because
exactly.
that's the kind of thing that will drive your true business forward.
Yes, yes, yes. Everything has a knock-on effect, and the honeybees realise that, and they have great respect for each other, and as I say, their selflessness, total selflessness, and yeah, yeah,
Fantastic. So yeah, yeah, save your sting.
yeah.
Be selfless. Think about how you're going to put
Yeah. Think
your
about that
communication across.
next
I think these are really,
interaction you have with the next person you meet, and what effect that's going to have on them. Because at the end of the day, whatever it is, it will come back to you. It always does.
that is a perfect. I'm not going to add anything more to that. That's a perfect. That's a perfect. And now I will ask you though, if have you got any? I know you've written your own kids' books. Have you got any other book recommendations
Oh,
that you would put either to leaders or about bees?
I've got so many books on bees, but the truth is, actually, a rather beautiful book, and it's a very old book, is The Life of a Bee, and it's very old, but the way they describe this it's poetic. That is just a very beautiful book. But oh my God, I've got so many books on bees.
Who's that? Who's the author of that book, Meriet?
Ooh, now you've asked me a question. Hold on a minute. I don't know. Morris Maeterlinck.
Morris Maeterlinck.
It's just beautiful.
Right.
It's not a book. It's just beautiful. It's just beautifully written. The way he describes the queen, the way he describes a swarm of bees, the first chapter on the threshold of life, the first time you go into a beehive, the whole ethics of it. That's why I say to you, when you say, how did it change your life? You'd have to go into that hive and see what's going on there and understand what's going on there and not come out affected by it. And this is a very poetical book. I mean, oh gosh, there's so many beautiful books on bees out there. And I personally on literature on bees, as in fiction, I haven't read any because I still have one more book to write, and I never want to be accused of plagiarizing, and you can't help. I mean, they say there's no such thing as an original idea, and if something great was in one of those books, I would have to steal it in some way. I was a photographer for 20 years, and
Right.
you storyboard out a thing, anything, any film, any photograph, any painting. It's everybody takes from other people. So I haven't read any fictional books, but I get loads. I can't recommend one in particular. Sorry, but that
it sounds like that. There are, I don't know if people do this, but it sounds like it would be an amazing thing for a team to do, is to go and have a observing the bees kind of
Yeah.
moment. I don't know if that exists.
Yeah.
Does that exist?
Well, when I give my hang on, my battery's about to run out here. Hang on, 2 seconds. What's happened? Why is that happening? Let me. I'm going to lose you.
No problem.
Sorry. Edit that bit out. There we go. I pulled the cord out. Yes, I mean my talks are basically I take a hive with me, and I get people as much into the hive as I can without actually producing bees, and I show you frame by frame, and I tell you, each job, and it does. People are wowed by it, and they leave thinking very differently about how they do. So to actually have a team of people to go, and there are places I know the Bee Centre up near Blackpool, they do days, and to go, probably that would be a wonderful team building thing to actually see the workings of a hive for yourself. Or I think,
it sounds like that would really
great
hit home.
speaker to come along.
Absolutely. Get Meriet to your business right now, and she'll give it a full. That's the hive. It's not with live bees.
No. I've got a virtual hive which you can probably just see there in the back, and in it there are frames with photographs that I've taken, and all the frames are weighted so you can feel what it feels like. And I just talk everybody through the various jobs of the bees in the hive, and in fact, the children's book, The Life Cycle and the Importance of the Honeybee, is my talk. And I think people are amazed. They're amazed by them, by how much they do. They are incredible.
Thank you so much for joining. We've gone from some quite fundamental things in terms of bee behaviour and what we can learn from them, I think, right to the real core of what we should really be learning as people, as humans.
Yeah,
so, thank you for that.
Yeah, you're very welcome. Very welcome.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for asking me.
My pleasure. Take care.
Okay, bye.